They say blood is thicker than water, but in the Sterling family, money was the only blood type that mattered. Picture a woman, 8 months pregnant, standing in the pouring rain on the neatly paved driveway of a Hamptons estate. She isn't waiting for a cab. She's just been thrown out like garbage. Inside, her husband is toasting champagne with his mistress, laughing about how easy it was to get rid of the dead weight. But they made one fatal calculation. They thought Nora was a nobody. They thought she was a poor orphan with no connections. They didn't know that the poor girl they just evicted is the protected younger sister of the 2 most ruthless billionaires in New York City. And when those brothers find out what happened to their little sister, let's just say, the Sterling family empire is about to burn. The grandfather clock in the hallway of the Sterling estate chimed 7 times, the sound echoing off the marble floors like a death knell. Nora adjusted her maternity dress, a simple, dusty blue cotton piece she had bought at a thrift store. It was tight around her swollen belly, but it was the nicest thing she owned. She checked her reflection in the hallway mirror. Her face was pale, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired. 8 months of pregnancy, while cleaning this massive house without any help, would do that to anyone. Nora! The shrill voice of her mother-in-law, Patricia Sterling, cut through the air. Stop staring at yourself. You're not going to find any beauty there. Come serve the appetizers. Nora flinched but hurried into the dining room. Tonight was her 2nd wedding anniversary with Mark. She had spent all day cooking Patricia's favorite roast, hoping, praying, that tonight might be different, that maybe Mark would smile at her like he used to. But when she walked into the dining room, holding the silver tray of canapes, she froze. The table was set for 4. Mark sat at the head of the table, looking dashing in a bespoke Armani suit. Patricia sat to his right, dripping in diamonds, and to his left sat a woman Nora knew all too well, Jessica. Jessica was Mark's executive assistant. She was everything Nora wasn't, sharp, expensive, and draped in a red silk dress that cost more than Nora's entire existence. Her hand was resting casually on Mark's forearm. Mark, Nora whispered, the tray trembling in her hands. What is she doing here? Mark didn't even look up from his wine glass. He swirled the crimson liquid, looking bored. Jessica is joining us for dinner, Nora. She's family, effectively. Family? Nora felt the blood drain from her face. Mark, it's our anniversary. Patricia let out a cruel, dry laugh. Oh, stop whining. It's pathetic. Put the tray down and go back to the kitchen. We have important matters to discuss, and we don't need the help hovering. I'm not the help, Nora said, her voice shaking but gaining a sliver of strength. I'm his wife. I'm carrying his son. Mark finally looked at her. His eyes were cold, devoid of the warmth she had fallen in love with 2 years ago. Not for much longer, Nora. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick brown envelope. He slid it across the mahogany table. It stopped right in front of the roast beef Nora had spent 4 hours preparing. What is this? Divorce papers, Mark said casually, as if ordering a coffee. And an eviction notice. Nora felt the room spin. You can't be serious. Mark, I'm due in 4 weeks. You're kicking me out? Now? Jessica giggled, taking a sip of her wine. Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. Mark needs a wife who fits his future. He's about to merge Sterling Tech with the biggest conglomerate in Europe. He needs a partner who can walk a red carpet, not someone who looks like she washes dishes for a living. I wash dishes because you fired the maid and made me do it, Nora snapped, tears welling in her eyes. And you did a mediocre job at best, Patricia added, inspecting a manicured fingernail. Look, Nora, we tried. We really did. But you're a nobody. You have no family, no money, no pedigree. You're an anchor dragging Mark down. Jessica comes from the DuPont family. She brings connections. You bring debt. Mark stood up, buttoning his jacket. Sign the papers, Nora. I'm being generous. I'm giving you $5,000 cash. That should be enough to get you a bus ticket to wherever it is poor people go. $5,000? Nora clutched her stomach as a sharp cramp hit her. For 2 years of my life, for your child. I want a paternity test for the kid, by the way. Mark sneered. Given your background, who knows whose bastard that really is? That was the breaking point. The silence that followed was deafening. Nora looked at the man she had loved, the man she had hidden her true identity for, because she wanted to be loved for herself, not her name. She looked at his cruel mother. She looked at the smirking mistress. She didn't scream. She didn't throw the tray. She simply placed it gently on the table. You want me to leave? Nora asked, her voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper. Immediately, Patricia barked. Get your trash out of my house. Okay, Nora said. She turned around. But remember this moment, Mark. Remember the day you chose a mistress over your wife and son. Because when the rain stops, you're going to realize you didn't just burn a bridge. You bombed your own foundation. Get out, Mark shouted, throwing a glass against the wall near her head. It shattered, sending shards of crystal flying. Nora walked out the front door, the heavy oak slamming shut behind her. The storm had started while they were arguing. Thunder rumbled directly overhead, shaking the ground. The rain in the Hamptons didn't drizzle. It poured, cold and unrelenting. Nora stood on the driveway, soaking wet within seconds. She had grabbed nothing but her small handbag. No coat, no umbrella. Just the clothes on her back, and the baby kicking furiously against her ribs. She shivered violently, her teeth chattering. She walked toward the large iron gates of the estate, the gravel crunching under her worn-out sneakers. As she reached the gate, a text message pinged on her cracked phone. It was from Mark. Don't bother coming back for your clothes. Patricia is burning them in the fireplace. Good luck. She stared at the screen, the light illuminating her tear-streaked face. She felt a wave of dizziness. She had nowhere to go. She had cut off everyone for Mark. She had played the role of the humble orphan perfectly, just as she promised herself she would when she left her family 5 years ago to find real love. Real love, she scoffed, a sob escaping her throat. What a joke. She slumped against the stone pillar of the gate, sliding down until she was sitting in a puddle. The cold was seeping into her bones. She was risking the baby's health. She couldn't be stubborn anymore. The charade had to end. With trembling fingers, she unlocked her phone and scrolled past Mark Hubby to a number she hadn't dialed in 125 days. It was saved simply as the Big Brother. She hit call. It rang once, it rang twice. On the third ring, the line clicked open. The voice on the other end was deep, authoritative, and terrifying to most of the business world. But to Nora, it sounded like safety. Nora! The single word was laced with shock. Noah Vance, CEO of Vance Global, the man who ate competitors for breakfast, sounded breathless. Noah, Nora whispered, her voice breaking. Nora, is that you? My God, we've been... Where are you? The sound of a chair scraping against a floor echoed in the background, followed by frantic movement. Liam, get on the other line, it's her. Noah, I messed up, Nora sobbed, the dam finally breaking. I messed up so bad. Where are you? Another voice joined the line, sharper, colder, but filled with panic. Liam Vance, the older brother, the protector. Nora, give us a location, now. I'm in the Hamptons, she stuttered, outside the Sterling estate. Please, I'm cold, I'm pregnant, and they kicked me out. The silence on the other end of the line was heavier than the storm. It lasted only 3 seconds, but in those 3 seconds, the fate of the Sterling family was sealed. Pregnant. Liam's voice dropped an octave. It wasn't a question. It was the growl of a predator who just found out someone touched his cub. Who kicked you out? Mark and his mother, and his mistress. Stay there, Noah commanded. Don't move. Do not hang up. I'm tracking your GPS. We are 20 minutes away by chopper, but I have a security detail in East Hampton. They will be there in 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Nora cried. I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to be loved for me. You are loved, Liam said, his voice unusually soft. And the people who did this to you, they're about to find out exactly who the Vance family is. Put the phone in your pocket, Nora. Look for the black SUVs. They're coming. Nora let the phone drop to her lap. She closed her eyes, listening to the rain. Less than 2 minutes later, the darkness of the country road was pierced by blinding LED headlights. Not one, but 4 massive black Cadillac Escalades tore around the corner, tires screeching on the wet asphalt. They didn't slow down until they were inches from where she sat. Doors flew open before the cars even fully stopped. 6 men in tactical suits jumped out, umbrellas opening in perfect synchronization. The lead security officer, a giant of a man named Marcus, whom Nora remembered from her childhood, sprinted toward her. "Miss Vance!" Marcus shouted, dropping to his knees in the mud without a second thought. He whipped off his tactical jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "We have her! Secure the perimeter!" "Marcus," she whispered, her vision blurring. "I've got you, Miss Nora. You're safe now." He scooped her up, as if she weighed nothing, as he carried her toward the warm, leather interior of the lead SUV. Nora looked back at the Sterling mansion, one last time. Through the rain, she could see the warm glow of the dining room window. She could see the silhouettes of Mark and Jessica laughing. "Laugh while you can, Mark," she thought, as the heavy door of the bulletproof SUV slammed shut, sealing out the cold. "My brothers are coming." Inside the Sterling mansion, the mood was celebratory. Mark popped the cork on a bottle of 1942 Dom Perignon. "To the future," he toasted, clinking glasses with Jessica. "To us," Jessica purred, leaning in to kiss him, and to getting rid of that drab little mouse. "I honestly don't know how you tolerated her for 2 years, Mark." She wore department store perfume. Patricia was busy scrolling on her iPad. "I've already listed the guest room on the staff schedule. We can move your things in tomorrow, Jessica. Oh, and Mark, make sure you change the locks. We don't want her sneaking back in to steal silverware." "She wouldn't dare," Mark laughed. "She's terrified of her own shadow. She's probably halfway to the bus station by now, crying her eyes out." Suddenly, a low thumping sound began to vibrate the crystal glasses on the table. "What is that?" Patricia asked, looking up. "Is that thunder?" The thumping grew louder, a rhythmic whoop, whoop, whoop that shook the windows in their frames. The cutlery rattled against the china. "That's not thunder," Mark said, frowning. He walked to the window and pulled back the heavy velvet curtain. His jaw dropped. "What is it?" Jessica asked, annoyed that her moment was being interrupted. There is a helicopter landing on the front lawn," Mark stammered. "A helicopter? Don't be absurd. The lawn is freshly sodded." Patricia shrieked, rushing to the window. Outside, A sleek, military-grade Sikorsky helicopter, painted matte black, was descending right onto the pristine grass of the Sterling estate. The downwash from the rotors was tearing up Patricia's prize-winning rose bushes, sending petals and mud flying everywhere. "My roses!" Patricia screamed. "Who is that? Call the police, Mark. This is trespassing." The helicopter touched down with a heavy thud. The side door slid open. Mark watched, transfixed, as two men stepped out. They didn't run, despite the rain. They walked with a terrifying, synchronized purpose. Both were tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in Italian suits that cost more than Mark's car. The first man, Noah Vance, had dark hair slicked back, and a jawline that looked like it was carved from granite. The second man, Liam Vance, had lighter hair but eyes that burned with a cold, blue fury. Behind them, 4 more security guards emerged, carrying assault rifles held at the low ready. "Mark," Jessica whispered, her face pale. Isn't that Noah Vance? The owner of Vance Global?" "And Liam Vance," Mark choked out. "The venture capitalist. They own half the city. Why are they here?" "Maybe they heard about the merger," Patricia said, suddenly straightening her dress and patting her hair. "They must be here to congratulate you, Mark. Oh, this is wonderful. Open the door." "With guns?" Mark asked, sweating. "Mother, they have armed guards. Security, obviously. Billionaires always travel with security. Go!" Mark nervously smoothed his suit jacket and hurried to the front door. He swung it open, putting on his best business smile. "Gentlemen," Mark shouted over the dying whine of the helicopter engine. "To what do I owe this honor? I'm Mark Sterling, CEO of Sterling Tech. If you're here about the merger..." Noah Vance didn't stop walking. He marched right up the steps and, without a word, shoved Mark backward. Mark stumbled, nearly tripping over the foyer rug. "Hey!" Mark protested. "You can't just..." Liam Vance stepped into the hallway, kicking the door shut behind him. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The 4 armed guards fanned out, securing the room. "Where is she?" Liam asked. His voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that made Mark's knees tremble. "Where is who?" Mark asked, bewildered. Patricia came bustling into the hallway, her fake smile plastered on. "Mr. Vance! And Mr. Vance! What a surprise. I'm Patricia Sterling. Please come into the dining room. We were just..." "I don't care who you are," Noah said, looking at Patricia like she was a stain on his shoe. "I asked a question. Where is my sister?" Mark blinked. "Sister? I think you have the wrong house. There's no one here but my mother, myself, and my fiancée, Jessica. We don't know any Vances." Liam walked up to Mark, invading his personal space. He towered over him. "Don't lie to me. Blonde, blue eyes, 8 months pregnant. Beautiful. Too good for a scumbag like you." Mark's heart stopped. The description. It couldn't be. "You mean Nora?" Mark laughed nervously. "Nora is your sister. That's impossible. Nora is a broke orphan. She worked as a waitress before I married her. She has no family." Noah stepped forward, pulling a photo from his inside pocket. He held it up. It was a picture of a younger Nora, laughing on a yacht, flanked by Noah and Liam. "Nora Vance," Noah said, "heiress to the Vance fortune, shareholder of 30% of Vance Global, and the woman you just threw out into a storm." Jessica, standing in the doorway of the dining room, dropped her wine glass. It shattered, red wine staining the white carpet like blood. She's a Vance?" Jessica whispered. "She wanted to find a man who loved her for herself, not her money," Liam spat. "So she created a fake identity. We hated it, but we respected her wishes. We let her marry you because she said you were all kind. She said you loved her soul." Liam grabbed Mark by the lapels of his Armani suit and slammed him against the wall. A painting fell and crashed to the floor. But it seems, Liam growled, his face inches from Mark's, that she was wrong. You threw our pregnant sister out on the street, in the rain. I didn't know, Mark squealed, his feet dangling off the ground. I swear I didn't know. If I knew she was a Vance, I never would have... Exactly, Noah said, walking over to the side table and picking up the divorce papers Mark had left there earlier. He read them, his eyes narrowing. You only treat people with dignity if they have money. That makes you a parasite. Noah ripped the divorce papers in half. Then he ripped them again. He threw the confetti in Mark's face. You wanted a divorce? Noah said calmly. You've got one. But you're not just losing a wife, Mark. You're losing everything. You can't threaten me, Patricia screeched, though she was shaking. We are the Sterlings. We have lawyers. Lawyers, Liam laughed. A dark, terrifying sound. He dropped Mark, who crumpled to the floor. Lady, by tomorrow morning, you won't be able to afford a lawyer. You won't be able to afford a bus ticket. Noah pulled out his phone. It's time to go to work. Initiate Protocol 0 on Sterling Tech. Mark's eyes widened. No, wait. Protocol 0? That's a hostile takeover. Not just a takeover, Noah corrected, dialing a number. An annihilation. The atmosphere in the Sterling hallway shifted from shock to a chaotic, suffocating panic. Noah Vance didn't yell. He didn't flip tables. He simply stood in the center of the foyer, unbuttoning his suit jacket with the calm demeanor of an executioner sharpening his axe, and tapped the screen of his phone. Speaker, Noah said, tossing his phone onto the entryway table next to a vase of imported orchids. A crisp, professional voice filled the room. It was Alexander Thorne, the head of legal for Vance Global. Yes, Mr. Vance, we are ready on your command. Execute, Noah said. Target is Sterling Tech. Secondary target is Mark Sterling's personal assets. Tertiary target is the estate debt held by... He looked at Liam. First Republic Bank, Liam supplied, not taking his eyes off Mark. First Republic, buy the note, call the loan. Immediately. Understood, sir. Initiating now. Mark scrambled to his feet, his face flushing a deep, sickly red. You can't do that. That's illegal. You can't just buy my house debt. Actually, Liam said, checking his watch, we own the bank that underwrites your mortgage as of a merger 3 months ago. Technically, we're your landlords, and you've violated the morality clause in your contract. What morality clause? Patricia shrieked. The one I just invented, Liam said dryly. But let's talk about your company, Mark. Sterling Tech. Mark's pocket began to vibrate. Then it chimed. Then it buzzed again. Within seconds, his phone was having a seizure. Mark pulled it out, his hands shaking so hard he nearly dropped it. It's my CFO. It's the board of directors. Answer it, Noah commanded. Mark put the phone to his ear. Hello? Jerry? What is going on? Mark! The voice on the other end was hysterical. What did you do? The stock. It's free-falling. Someone just dumped 40% of our outstanding shares onto the market in a single block trade. The price tanked from $140 to $12 in 3 minutes. Trading has been halted by the SEC. What? Mark screamed. Who has that kind of volume? Vance Global, Jerry yelled. They've been quietly buying up non-voting shares for months through shell companies. They just dumped everything. And Mark, the European merger partners, they just pulled out. They sent a press release saying they don't do business with morally compromised leadership. They cited a source regarding domestic abuse. Mark looked up at Noah, horror dawning on him. You tanked my company. I'm not finished, Noah said calmly. Alex, what's the status on the personal accounts? The voice from the speakerphone returned.
50 было 70.
We've flagged Mr. Sterling's accounts for suspicious activity related to insider trading. It's a fabrication, of course, but given the sudden stock dump, the federal freeze is automatic. All credit cards, checking accounts, and offshore holdings in the Caymans are locked pending investigation. Estimated time to unlock, 6 months to 3 years. Mark turned to Jessica. Jessica, give me your card. I need to transfer funds to a secure account before they get to everything. Jessica, who had been watching the scene with wide, calculating eyes, took a subtle step back. Her hand moved to her clutch, clutching it tight. My card? She asked, her voice shrill. Yes, the Amex Black card I gave you. Give it to me. Jessica looked at Mark. She looked at his sweating forehead, his crumpled suit, the sheer desperation radiating off him. Then she looked at the Vance brothers, men of true power, men who had destroyed Mark's entire life in under 5 minutes without breaking a sweat. I don't think so, Mark, Jessica said slowly. What? Mark froze. You're broke, Jessica said, her lip curling in disgust. You're under investigation. You just lost your company, and you're about to lose this house. Jessica, we love each other, Mark pleaded, reaching for her. We're partners. I'm a partner to success, Jessica snapped, swatting his hand away. Not to a charity case. I'm not going down with your sinking ship. She turned to Noah and Liam, flashing a bright, seductive smile. Gentlemen, surely you understand. I was manipulated by him too. I had no idea he was treating your sister so poorly. If I had known... Liam laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. I'll save it. We know who you are, Jessica Tate. You've jumped from CEO to CEO for 5 years. But you made a mistake. You picked a fight with a Vance. Liam nodded to the head of security. Escort her out and check her bag. Anything bought with Mark's money belongs to the creditors now, which means it belongs to us. You can't! Jessica screamed as a guard grabbed her arm. This is a vintage Chanel. Not anymore, the guard grunted, dragging her toward the door. Patricia Sterling collapsed onto the velvet sofa, sobbing into her hands. My reputation. What will the neighbors think? The gala is next week. You won't be at the gala, Patricia, Noah said, walking over to her. He loomed over her, his shadow swallowing her whole. Because by tomorrow morning, this house will be boarded up. We're seizing the property. Where will we go? She wailed. Noah leaned down, his voice a dangerous whisper. I hear there's a lovely homeless shelter in the Bronx. Maybe if you hurry, you can get a bed. But I wouldn't count on it. I'm donating a remarkably large sum to them tonight, on the condition that they have strict standards about who they let in. You're monsters, Mark yelled, lunging at Noah. Before Mark could even get close, Liam stepped in. He didn't punch Mark. He didn't need to. He simply shoved him in the chest, hard. Mark flew backward, tripping over the coffee table and landing in a heap on the floor. We aren't monsters, Liam said, buttoning his jacket. We're brothers. And you just learned the most expensive lesson of your life. You don't touch our blood. Noah picked up his phone. Alex, cut the power to the estate, now. Done, the voice replied. Instantly, the mansion plunged into darkness. The crystal chandelier dimmed and died. The heating system groaned and shut off. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, the silence was absolute. Enjoy the dark, Mark, Noah said, his voice echoing in the black foyer. It matches your future. The brothers turned and walked out the front door, the security team flanking them. They stepped into the rain, leaving the Sterling screaming in the dark, surrounded by the ruins of their empire. The scene inside the private suite at Mount Sinai Hospital was a stark contrast to the chaos at the Sterling estate. Here, everything was hushed, sterile, and white. The only sounds were the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor and the soft hum of the ventilation system. Nora lay in the bed, looking smaller than ever. Her blonde hair was matted with sweat, her skin translucent against the hospital sheets. An IV drip was connected to her arm, pumping fluids and medication into her exhausted body. She had been in labor for 12 hours. The stress of the eviction, the walk in the freezing rain, and the emotional trauma had triggered severe preeclampsia. Her blood pressure was dangerously high. Noah and Liam Vance, the titans of New York, looked completely out of their element. Noah was pacing the length of the room, his expensive loafers squeaking softly on the linoleum. He had taken off his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, looking less like a CEO and more like a terrified big brother. Liam sat in the chair next to Nora's bed, holding her hand. His knuckles were white. He was gently rubbing her thumb with his, a habit he'd had since they were children. Is she okay? Noah asked for the 10th time in 5 minutes. The obstetrician, Dr. Orris, the best high-risk specialist in the country, flown in by helicopter courtesy of the Vance family, checked the monitor. Her pressure is stabilizing, Mr. Vance, Dr. Harris said calmly. But the baby is in distress. The stress hormones in her system triggered early contractions, and the baby's heart rate is dipping with each one. We need to deliver soon. Nora stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked groggy. Noah? Liam? We're here, Ellie, Liam said softly, leaning in. We're right here. The baby, she whispered, clutching her stomach. Is he okay? He's fighting, Liam said, forcing a smile, just like his mom. But the doctors say it's time to meet him. I'm scared, Nora cried, a tear sliding down her cheek. Mark said I was weak. He said I was a nobody. Noah stopped pacing. He walked to the other side of the bed and brushed a strand of hair off her forehead. His eyes, usually so cold and calculating, were filled with a fierce, protective warmth. Mark is a fool, Noah said firmly. You are Nora Vance. You are the strongest person I know. You left the family fortune to build a life on your own terms. You survived 2 years with that snake, and you walked through a storm to save your child. You are not weak, Nora. You are iron. But I failed, she sobbed. I came crawling back. You didn't crawl, Liam corrected her. You called in the cavalry. That's strategy. Now focus on breathing. We need you to be strong for 1 more hour. Suddenly, the heart monitor began to beep rapidly. A sharp, high-pitched alarm filled the room. Heart rate decelerating, the nurse announced sharply. Dr. Harris! Cord compression, Dr. Harris said, her voice snapping into command mode. We're losing him. We need to do an emergency C-section. Now, prep the OR. The room exploded into action. Nurses swarmed the bed, unlocking the wheels. No! Nora screamed, panic seizing her. Don't let him die, please! We won't let that happen, Noah said, running alongside the gurney as they rushed her into the hallway. We're right here. They were stopped at the double doors of the operating room. Family has to wait here, a nurse said firmly, blocking the brothers. I'm going in, Liam growled. Sir, for the sterility of the field and the safety of the patient, you must wait, Dr. Orris said, stopping for a split second to look Liam in the eye. I am the best at what I do. Let me save your nephew. Liam hesitated, then nodded. The doors swung shut, cutting them off from their sister. The next 40 minutes were the longest of the Vance brothers' lives. They sat in the private waiting room, surrounded by untouched coffee and magazines. The silence was heavy. "If anything happens to her," Liam said, staring at the floor, "I will kill him. I don't mean I'll ruin him financially. I mean I will end him." "She's going to be fine," Noah said, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. He stood at the window, looking out at the New York skyline. "She has to be." They waited. 10 minutes, 20, 30. Then the double doors opened. Dr. Aris stepped out, pulling off her surgical cap. She looked tired but was smiling. The brothers were on their feet instantly. "Well?" Noah demanded. "She's stable," Dr. Oris said. "Her blood pressure has dropped to safe levels. She's sleeping now." "And the baby?" Liam asked, holding his breath. "He was small," Dr. Oris said. 5 pounds, 4 ounces. But he has a set of lungs on him. From down the hallway, as if on cue, a thin, piercing cry echoed through the quiet ward. The tension in Liam's shoulders snapped. He let out a breath that sounded like a sob. Noah closed his eyes and leaned his forehead against the wall. "Can we see them?" Noah asked. "Give the nurses 5 minutes to get them settled in recovery." Then, yes, 10 minutes later, the brothers walked into the recovery room. Nora was awake, though she looked exhausted. In her arms, wrapped in a blue hospital blanket and a tiny knitted hat, was a sleeping baby. Noah and Liam approached the bed as if they were approaching a bomb, careful, terrified, and awestruck. "Look who decided to show up," Nora whispered, her voice raspy. Liam looked down at the baby. The boy had a tuft of dark hair, and when he scrunched up his face and yawned, he looked surprisingly like Nora. "He's tiny," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. He reached out a finger, and the baby's tiny hand instinctively curled around it, gripping tight. "He's perfect," Noah said softly. "Does he have a name?" Nora looked down at her son. She traced the curve of his cheek. "I was going to name him Mark Jr., she admitted. "But that name is dead to me now." She looked up at her brothers. "I want to name him after our father, and the man who saved us tonight." "Julian?" Noah asked, referring to their late father. "Julian Noah Vance," Nora said. "No Sterling, he's a Vance. Noah, the man who could buy countries and destroy corporations with a phone call, felt tears prick his eyes. He cleared his throat, trying to maintain his composure. Julian, that's a strong name. He's going to need to be strong," Liam said, looking at the baby's grip on his finger, "because he's going to run this city one day." "Not today," Nora smiled weakly. "Today he just needs to sleep." The moment was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. It was Marcus, the head of security. "Mr. Vance," Marcus said quietly. "Not now, Marcus," Noah said, not looking away from his nephew. "Sir, it's urgent. It's about Mark Sterling." Liam's face hardened instantly. The softness vanished. "What about him?" "He's downstairs," Marcus said. "In the lobby. He's causing a scene. He says he has rights to the child. He brought a lawyer, some court-appointed guy." Nora flinched, clutching the baby tighter. "He's here. He can't be here. Don't let him take Julian." "He's not taking anyone," Liam said, his voice dropping to that lethal growl again. He looked at Noah. Noah straightened up, buttoning his suit jacket. The protective big brother was gone. The ruthless billionaire was back. "Stay here with Nora," Noah told Liam. "I'll handle this." "No," Nora said, sitting up straighter. "I want to see him." "Nora, you just had surgery," Liam argued. "I need him to see me," Nora said, her eyes burning with a newfound fire. I need him to see that he didn't break me. I need him to see exactly what he threw away. Wheelchair, Noah ordered Marcus. And tell the security team to clear the corridor. We're going down. The lobby of Mount Sinai Hospital was a cavernous space of glass and steel. Usually quiet, it was currently the scene of a desperate commotion. Mark Sterling, wearing the same suit from the night before, now wrinkled and stained with sweat, was shouting at a stone-faced security guard. Patricia stood behind him, looking like a ghost of her former self. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup smeared, and she was clutching a knockoff handbag, her designer purse having been confiscated by the creditors earlier that morning. I am the father, Mark screamed, waving a crumpled piece of paper. I have rights. You can't keep me from my wife and child. This is kidnapping. Sir, you need to lower your voice, or I will detain you, the guard said calmly, his hand resting on his taser. Detain me? Do you know who I am? I am Mark Sterling. You were Mark Sterling. A deep voice boomed across the lobby. The elevator door slid open. A phalanx of 6 security guards stepped out, forming a protective V-shape. In the center, Noah pushed a wheelchair. Sitting in it was Nora, holding a bundle of blue blankets. Liam walked beside her, his face a mask of cold fury. Mark froze. He looked at Nora. She looked pale and tired, but her eyes were clear. She held her head high, a true Vance. Nora! Mark's face transformed instantly from anger to a pathetic, weeping relief. He rushed forward, but 2 guards stepped in his path, blocking him like a brick wall. Baby, I was so worried, Mark cried, trying to look around the guards. I called everywhere. Look at you. You had the baby? Is it a boy? Oh, Nora, I'm so sorry. Last night, the stress, the merger, I wasn't myself. Patricia shoved past Mark, putting on her best grandmotherly face. Nora, darling, we were frantic. We didn't mean a word of it. You know how high-strung Mark gets. We're family. Let me see my grandson. Nora didn't speak. She just looked at them. The silence stretched, uncomfortable and heavy. Family? Liam repeated, stepping forward. He held up a thick manila envelope. Is that what you call this? What is that? Mark asked, sweating. It's the paternity test results, Liam said. You asked for one, remember? You called your own son a bastard at the dinner table. You said, and I quote, given your background, who knows whose bastard that really is? Mark went white. I was joking. It was a bad joke. We ran the test, Noah said coldly. The DNA is a match. He is your biological son. Mark let out a breath of relief. See? He's my son. I have rights. I want custody, or at least visitation. Actually, Nora spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet, but it echoed in the silent lobby. You don't.
I need a weapon.
She looked down at the sleeping baby, then back at Mark. You signed the eviction notice, Mark, and attached to it was a preliminary divorce decree that you drafted to save money on lawyers. In your haste to get rid of me for Jessica, you included a clause. The husband waives all parental rights and financial responsibility for any offspring born of the marriage in exchange for a clean break. You signed it. I have the copy you threw at me. Mark's jaw dropped. That's not legal. I didn't know you were a Vance then. I thought you were poor. So you only want your son if he comes with a trust fund? Noah asked, disgust dripping from his voice. You are a parasite, Mark. I love her, Mark yelled, desperate now. Nora, please, think of the good times, the trip to Cabo, the movie nights. We can fix this. Your brothers, they can help us. We can be a power couple. Think of the baby. He needs his father. He has a father, Nora said, looking at Noah and Liam. He has 2 men who would walk through fire for him. He doesn't need a coward who throws pregnant women into the rain. Patricia fell to her knees, sobbing theatrically. Nora, please. We have nowhere to go. The bank took the house this morning. They put padlocks on the doors. They took my car. We have no cash. Please, just a small loan. For the sake of the baby's grandmother. Nora looked at the woman who had made her scrub floors for 2 years. You like cleaning, Patricia? Nora said coldly. I hear the hospital is hiring janitorial staff. It's honest work. You should try it. You bitch! Mark lunged, his control snapping. You tricked me! You hid your money! This is fraud! He didn't get within 10 feet of her. Marcus, the head of security, tackled Mark to the polished floor with a bone-crunching thud. He zip-tied Mark's hands behind his back in seconds. Get off me! Mark screamed, thrashing. Mark Sterling! A new voice entered the fray. 2 police officers walked into the lobby, followed by a woman in a sharp grey suit. Mark looked up from the floor, squinting. Jessica? It was his mistress, but she wasn't looking at him with love. She was looking at him with contempt. Jessica, tell them! Mark yelled. Tell them we're partners. We're not partners, Mark, Jessica said, smoothing her skirt. I'm a cooperating witness. What? I gave the district attorney the hard drives, Jessica said, her voice icy. The ones showing how you embezzled funds from the pension accounts to pay for your lifestyle and the offshore laundering. You knew about that. You helped me, Mark shrieked. And now I'm helping them in exchange for immunity. Jessica smiled cruelly. The Vance brothers made me a very compelling offer to turn over the evidence. Turns out they pay better than you do. The police officers hauled Mark to his feet. Mark Sterling, you are under arrest for securities fraud, embezzlement, and grand larceny, the officer recited. As they dragged him away, Mark looked back over his shoulder, his eyes locking with Nora's. Nora, please, I'm your husband. Nora! Nora didn't look away. She didn't cry. She simply watched him disappear through the revolving doors into the back of a waiting squad car. Let's go home, she said to her brothers. Which home? Noah asked gently. The penthouse? The Hamptons estate? Or the villa in Tuscany? Nora looked down at Julian, who was sleeping peacefully through the drama. Anywhere, she said, as long as it's safe. If New York City was a kingdom, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was its throne room. Tonight, it was bathed in the soft glow of 10,000 crystals, the air thick with the scent of white lilies, and the sound of a live orchestra playing Debussy. This was the inaugural Phoenix Gala, an event raising funds for single mothers in crisis. Tickets cost $25,000 a plate, and they had sold out in 10 minutes. At the center of the head table sat the woman everyone had come to see, Nora Vance. She was no longer the fragile, frightened woman shivering in the rain. She was a vision of untouchable elegance. She wore a custom Versace gown of deep midnight blue, embroidered with silver thread that shimmered like starlight. Around her neck sat the Vance sapphire, a jewel rumored to be worth more than the entire Sterling estate. On her lap sat Julian, now a chubby-cheeked, curious toddler with bright blue eyes and a mop of curly hair. He was banging a silver spoon against the table, delighted by the noise. Careful, little tiger, Noah Vance said, sitting to Nora's right. He gently took the spoon away and replaced it with a soft bread roll. We don't want to break the china. We own the hotel, but still. Liam Vance, seated on her left, took a sip of his scotch, his eyes scanning the room with the perpetual vigilance of a predator. Security is tight, Nora. You can relax. No one gets in here unless we want them here. Nora smiled, touching Liam's arm. I am relaxed, Liam. For the first time in years, I'm not looking over my shoulder. You should look over your shoulder. Noah grinned, clinking his glass against hers. To see how far you've left the trash behind. The kitchen. 50 feet away, through the swinging double doors, the atmosphere was a different world. It was hot, loud, and smelled of industrial dishwasher soap and filet mignon. Move it! Move it! The catering manager, a red-faced man named Gordy, screamed, clapping his hands. Table 12 needs water. Table 4 needs the vegetarian option. Come on, people, this is the Van Scala. If you mess this up, you'll never work in this city again. A man in a slightly ill-fitting white waiter's jacket wiped sweat from his forehead with a rag. His feet were blistered. His back screamed in agony. He had been standing for 8 hours straight. It was Mark Sterling. But looking at him, you might not recognize the arrogant CEO from 18 months ago. His hair was thinning rapidly from stress. His face was gaunt, lines of bitterness etched deep around his mouth. He looks 10 years older. Hey, new guy, Gordy barked at him. Stop daydreaming. Take this water pitcher to table 1, and don't make eye contact with the guests. You're invisible, understand? You're furniture. Yes, sir, Mark mumbled, grabbing the heavy crystal pitcher. Mark's life had disintegrated with terrifying speed. After the arrest, the assets were seized. The lawyers took what little cash he had hidden. He had avoided jail time by taking a plea deal that stripped him of his securities license forever. He was unhireable in the finance world. His friends had blocked his number. Patricia was in a state-subsidized nursing home, refusing to speak to him because he lost the family name. Now, he lived in a basement apartment in Queens with 3 roommates, and he worked for a temp agency, catering to the very people he used to dine with. The floor mark pushed through the double doors, the cool air of the ballroom hitting his sweaty face. He kept his head down, navigating the sea of tuxedos and gowns. As he approached table 1, his heart hammered against his ribs. He recognized the men sitting there. It was the board of directors for Sterling Tech, his old company. I'm telling you, one board member was saying, laughing as he swirled his wine. The takeover was the best thing that happened to the stock. The Vance brothers gutted the management, sure, but profits are up 200%. Getting rid of Sterling was addition by subtraction. Mark flinched. He poured the water into the glass, his hand trembling. Easy there, Garkan, the board member snapped, not even looking at Mark's face. Don't splash the Armani. Mark bit his tongue so hard he tasted copper. I used to sign your bonus checks, he wanted to scream. I used to own you. But he said nothing. He wasn't Mark Sterling anymore. He was just a waiter. Refill the head table, the floor supervisor whispered into Mark's earpiece. The VIPs need champagne. Go now. Mark froze. The head table. He looked across the room. The spotlight was on her. Nora. She was laughing at something the man next to her said. She looked radiant, ethereal. She looked like a queen, and sitting on her lap was the boy, his son. A wave of nausea and longing hit Mark so hard he nearly dropped the bottle. He shouldn't go over there. He couldn't. Move, Sterling, the supervisor hissed in his ear. Mark forced his legs to move. He walked toward the dais, every step feeling like he was walking to the gallows. He stepped up to the table. He moved to Liam's side first, pouring the champagne. Liam didn't look up. Then he moved to Noah. Noah paused, sensing something, but continued his conversation. Then Mark moved to Nora. Her scent hit him, vanilla and expensive jasmine. It was the same perfume she used to wear, but now it smelled like power. As he reached over to pour the wine into her flute, his hand shook uncontrollably. A single drop of champagne splashed onto the pristine white tablecloth. Oh, for heaven's sake! Patricia Sterling, who had somehow managed to sneak into the event as a +1 of a distant relative and was seated at a nearby table, gasped loudly. Clumsy oaf! Nora stopped talking. She turned her head slowly. She looked at the stain. Then she looked up at the hand holding the bottle. Then she looked at the face. The table went silent. Noah and Liam stopped mid-sentence. Liam's hand instinctively went to the steak knife on his plate, his knuckles turning white. Mark stood there, frozen, the bottle clutched in his hand like a lifeline. He looked into Nora's eyes, expecting to see the fire of hatred. He expected her to scream, to throw her drink in his face, to order the guards to drag him out. He wanted her to scream. At least hatred was a feeling. At least hatred meant he still mattered. But Nora didn't scream. She didn't blink. She looked at him with a chilling, absolute indifference. It was the way one looks at a stranger on the subway or a bug on the sidewalk, acknowledging its existence, but assigning it zero value. I'm sorry, Mum, Mark choked out, his voice cracking. I'll get a napkin. Nora stared at him for 3 agonizing seconds. Then she turned back to Noah. As I was saying, Nora said, her voice smooth and steady, completely ignoring the man standing inches from her. The expansion into Europe is going well. She dismissed him. She didn't even grant him the dignity of a recognition. Mark felt his soul turn to ash. He was nothing. He wasn't a villain. He wasn't a monster. He was just a bad waiter. Go, Liam said softly, without looking at Mark. The single word carried the weight of a death threat. Mark turned and fled. The twist. He burst back into the kitchen, hyperventilating. He threw the towel on the stainless steel counter. I can't do it, Mark gasped to the manager, Gordy. I'm done. I quit. I can't serve them. Gordy looked up from his clipboard, unimpressed. You can't quit, Sterling. You signed a 6-month contract with the agency. If you walk out, you forfeit your back pay. And I know you need the money for your probation fees. I don't care, Mark yelled, tears of humiliation streaming down his face. Do you know who that is out there? That's my ex-wife. I built that life. And now she's sitting there like royalty and I'm serving her scraps, Gordy sighed, chewing on a toothpick. He walked over to a filing cabinet and pulled out a folder. You know, Sterling, you're right about one thing. She is royalty. Gordy tossed a document onto the metal counter. What is this? Mark asked, wiping his eyes. That's the ownership paperwork for this catering company. Prestige Staffing. Mark looked at the document. His eyes widened. Owner, EV Holdings, subsidiary of the Julian Foundation. She bought us, Mark whispered. She bought the staffing agency. 6 months ago, Gordy said, right around the time we hired you. We had strict instructions from corporate. Hire Mark Sterling. Give him the worst shifts. Make him work double weekends. But never fire him unless he steals. Mark felt the room spin. She hired me. She owns you, pal. Gordy chuckled darkly. Every check you cash comes from her personal account. Every time you scrub a dish, you're scrubbing it for her. She didn't want you in jail, Mark. She wanted you here, serving the people you used to rule. Mark slumped against the counter, sliding down until he hit the greasy floor. She knew. She had known the whole time. Tonight wasn't an accident. It was an inspection. Through the window of the swinging door, he could see the ballroom one last time. Nora was standing up, raising a glass for a toast. The entire room stood with her, applauding, cheering, adoring her. She was the son, and he was just a ghost she was keeping around to haunt himself. Get up, Sterling. Gordy kicked his boot. Dessert service starts in 5 minutes, and you're on the chocolate fountain station. Try not to mess this one up. Mark Sterling, former billionaire, former master of the universe, slowly pulled himself up from the floor. He straightened his cheap jacket. He picked up his tray. Yes, sir, he whispered. He walked back out to serve the woman who had won. And that, my friends, is the definition of the long game. Nora didn't just get revenge. She curated a masterpiece of justice. Mark thought he could discard people like objects, but he ended up becoming a tool in her empire, a literal servant to the success he tried to destroy. It begs the question, is the greatest revenge destroying your enemy or keeping them around to watch you succeed? I want to hear from you. If you were Nora, would you have hired Mark to make him suffer? Or would you have just let him rot in jail? Rate her revenge level from 1 to 10 in the comments. If you loved this saga of the billionaire brothers and the unwanted wife, please smash that like button. It helps us create more long-form stories like this. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss next week's drama. My mother-in-law wore white to my wedding, so I spilled red wine. But it wasn't wine. You do not want to miss that one. Thanks for watching, and remember, be careful who you step on today. They might own the sidewalk tomorrow.